Chief Adam Gaming, thank you for the 10. Luke, since you're familiar with corporate finance, I don't understand why Tencent doesn't try to do a hostile takeover of Ubisoft. There's a couple of things. The current restriction is that they signed an agreement that's legally binding in France and EU courts. Basically what happened is, this is the later thing, but they might mention when they did it. Tencent owns 10%. I believe it was 2022. Tencent signed an agreement that limits their acquisition of further shares. And basically, if they want to buy a larger stake, the Guimauve family has to approve of it. That's like the bare bones SparkNotes version of it. And they made that agreement when Ubisoft was doing pretty well, or at least better. Now that agreement seems really silly, but that's how this works. Sometimes you make a deal and then you regret it a year later and you're like, what were we thinking? But that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. So they are kind of restrained and restricted from what they can do. That deal, I think, is good for 10 years. So at the end of that 10-year period, they could just go rogue and try to brute force it. But what you'll also notice is that Tencent doesn't tend to like full buyouts. They tend to like to buy slivers. The only time they've really gotten aggressive with acquisitions is when they think that there's a major opportunity for what we call value add. That's a real estate term. It's also used here. But basically, it's just when you think that a business is being really poorly run and you think that there's an opportunity for you to clean it up and reap the rewards, then get more aggressive, throw the money at it. But I think the problem for Tencent right now is just they have that agreement. And so even if they were to try and start aggressively acquiring shares, what Ubisoft would do is they would go to regulators in the EU and be like, see, we signed this agreement. They can't do that. And then all of those shares would be null and void, and they would be de-issued or whatever the recourse would be. I don't know. But basically Tencent can't just go in there and buy them out. I'm sure at this point they would like to just do that. And a lot of investors would like just them to be bought out fully. But they kind of got themselves into a pinch with it. Little bit of a pinch. I should also say the reason why they entered into that agreement was because the Guimauve family has a history of avoiding hostile takeovers. If you remember, Ubisoft and Vivendi. Vivendi. But basically Vivendi tried to buy out Ubisoft back in 2014, and it created an absolute train wreck for the company where they were just issuing shares, buying them up, finding partners to consolidate ownership, to fight it. They did not want to release control. So Tencent, to play fairly and nicely, came in and was like, hey, we'll sign this agreement. We won't take more than 10%, but let's be partners. And then the company's just been tanking in terms of stock. And so now I'm sure that they regret it. But fun fact, this is a deep cut right here. You can bring this to trivia night. They did end up buying, Vivendi ended up buying a company called Gameloft in 2016. Do you know the heads of Gameloft, the founder of Gameloft? For one, the logo might look a little familiar, kind of Ubisoft-esque, but the founder, it's actually Ubisoft co-founder Michel Guimont, or Michel, I'm not sure. And this is the guy that looks, I'm not gonna be mean, but I'm sure he's a nice guy. Point is, he's Eve's brother. So fun fact, Eve didn't want to give up Ubisoft, but Michel was like, oh yeah, give me that money, let's do it. So there you go. People don't realize the Guimont brothers, the family, is responsible for some of the biggest gaming companies in the world, which is just kind of wild. Looks like an alien wearing a human mask, just a little bit, but that's okay. So did Jim Ryan. And if you're like, Luke, that's mean, the dude's worth billions. Okay, I can tease him. He'll be okay. Okay. I feel like we can poke a little bit. It's all right. Dude could pay for a new face and be fine. That's all I'm saying. Let's see. I used to work at Gameloft during the buyout. Most of us got laid off soon afterwards. Yeah, to be fair, most buyouts, they are not great for low-level employees. To be fair, even mid-level employees, like buyouts are aggressive. And it's why I've said like the when people are like, what will save Ubisoft? I'm like, oh, Tencent getting in, like more directly involved will basically save them. But it's like, what does that actually mean? Well, Tencent will save the company, but Tencent, when they go in to do like downsizing and restructurings, they don't go in with a scalpel, they go in with a machete. Okay, so it will be messy, but it will save the company. But that's why I think you just have to be precise with words. Some people are like, what will save them to the point where they can keep 18,000 employees? I'm not sure anything can, because I think 18,000 employees for what they're putting out is probably too much. 18,000 employee staff is just too much. Yeah, I mean, it's just what happens when you just continue to expand for like 15, 20 years, basically. And you never really do restructurings. You never do layoffs. You never do anything like that. And so you end up with a lot of redundancies, jobs that don't really need to exist. Because that's what investors have said. They're like, with 18,000, 20,000 employees, you should be putting out X amount of games. You should be generating X amount of revenue. And you are doing half of that. So what are those 9,000 extra employees doing? And that's, I mean, either way, it's an inefficiency. And Tencent, they will figure out where the inefficiencies are. And I think they will be able to save the company, but I think it's going to be real messy in the process. Wilfredo, thank you for the 5. What metrics are usually looked at to determine a healthy company? Does depend on the industry. It absolutely does depend on the industry. Part of it is when you look at a stock price, you have to determine what the multiple should be. Basically, when you look at a company that's in like the AI sector right now, it's trading on multiples of earnings. Yeah, so you look at like the bare bones financials of a company. You can look at, of course, revenue. That doesn't tell you how much money they're actually making, that's just how much money they're bringing in. Operating expenses, net income, this is a more important number. Net profit margin, this is really important, and you want to see this going up typically. Earnings per share, that's a good indication of how much wealth they're actually generating per share that's been issued, of course. EBITDA, this is like earnings before interest, taxes, debt, and amortization. And so that also gives you a good number of what they're making before other things are taken out of that number. You can look at their balance sheets to figure out how much cash they're sitting on, how much debt they have, you know, all of those types of things. Cash flows, you can see how much money they're investing in various projects, how much money is going out versus coming in. So you can start to get a good idea of how these things are working. It's a little bit different for each and every company because, of course, every company is different. Like you wouldn't want to look at like Berkshire Hathaway, which is Warren Buffett's company. You wouldn't want to look at this and be like, oh, well, see, they're trading on X multiples of earnings, whereas Take-Two is trading on this multiple of earnings. It's like they're different. They're just different. So it's not fair to do that. But the point is, when you look at similar firms, whether it's Ubisoft versus EA versus Take-Two versus whoever, the foundational stuff is okay, not good, but it's not like they've, you know, racked up an egregious amount of debt or anything. Like, it's standard for a company their size. The problem is that they're just not bringing revenue in for how big they are. So in a matter of years, debt will continue to rise and they'll have to figure stuff out. But, you know, it just is what it is. The thing with Ubisoft is that they just have, you know, Daddy Warbucks, Tencent, sitting on the sidelines ready to throw money at them whenever they need it. And so, you know, I think their risk of being screwed over completely is pretty low. Just because I think before they get there, Tencent could come in and basically give them a check to fix it and then get a bunch of equity and stuff in exchange. But we'll see. Because the other thing we know is that the managers and leadership at Ubisoft is they are not typically willing to let go of control. And there is a strong possibility that they will tank the company before they give up control. Because they already like kind of are doing that. Which would be really unfortunate. I mean, if we get to the point where like they are literally willing to let 18,000 people lose their jobs instead of just letting go of the reins, I think that's pretty shameful, but we'll see. We shall see. He took my thing.